Hello there, my name is Kate in the Nest, and thank you so much for dropping by to see me in this session. I am, as always, very excited, and I've deliberately, and I hope you're not too disappointed, my kinners, I've bumped my Kate in the Nest project #1 episode for just a little while, because I realized I had a deadline. And I don't know about you, I love a deadline because it really gets me going. So before I launch into all about me, how are you going? I hope that you are well, that the week is going, we're midweek here in Australia, and all is well with me. I've been working for a few days and I had today at home, and that means it's like extra energy into my making and creating. So that's where my mind is. And similarly, I hope whenever you're watching this, you have something fun beside you, or that this can occupy the time. Okay, what is Kate's deadline? Well, very, very excitedly, it is only a couple of weeks now till I go to New Zealand with the Green Door on tour. So part of that is we have 5 days in the city of Wellington, and I know I'm privileged to travel. I've been very blessed just the last couple of years to do more traveling than I had in my whole life. So I share this probably with some sense that, yeah, that not everyone can do this, but for me, it's a great excuse to make something with fresh eyes and to then have a memory. So I like making pieces with memories. So the memory that we're going to touch on today is that part of the Green Door on tour is a 2-day course with Fleur Woods, and you will have heard of Fleur, and I know many of you are devotees way before I came across Fleur. And I'm privileged this year to Fleur is teaching in Wellington for 2 days, and then I'm teaching for 1, and then she and I get to actually collaborate and teach in Nelson and at the Green Door Studios. So all of those, the Nelson one is sold out, which is a thrill to both of us. So it's like building that sense of team and like minds, and just basically wanting to share it with more people. So where does this book come in? I have used this frequently as inspiration, and I keep coming back to these colors of Fleur's. I don't know how to describe this color, but I look at it and I see the pink, and I've shown you it before, and I know many of you have the book, and I should have bookmarked it first, but you get to see the work as I flip. I'm after Fleur's grandmother's tablecloth there. For me, every time I look at that, I just feel joyful. I see the flowers and the care that Fleur has done as she calls it the source of inspiration. It's my great grandmother's tablecloth, and a piece I created in response. So there's the original, I think, and then this is her response. So when I think of Fleur and I think of New Zealand, I do think of green, which is not always a colour that I go to first of all. So the backstory, because you know me and my stories, I love context because I think that helps you who don't know me so well understand where I'm coming from, and also sharing that it's a journey. So I've shared this before. I made this pouch to take to Fleur's workshop in Melbourne, my very first with her, in October 2024. So that's when I first met Fleur. I wanted to use her colours, and I was just a beginner collector of vintage fabrics, appliques, and I don't think there's any embroidery on here except some running stitch cantha sort of thing. Now I do realize, and it's just becoming more and more obvious to me as I reflect, probably one of my differences is I don't do straight line cantha, and I absolutely love it, but why I don't is that I can't do it straight. So I've evolved to do my lines of stitching around joins and to a minimum. So that's been right from the beginning, part of that style, the dangles, you know, the stories that came with that. At that same workshop, Maddie, the artist, whose work I admire so much, gifted me this trim, and that started my interest in Indian trims. And now that was from Marigold Interiors in St Kilda, Melbourne, Australia, and now I've actually been to India since. And so it's a remarkable story to me. I had started trying to stitch like Fleur, and I made quite a lot of progress in that time because I was really focused on it. But I haven't done a lot of this style since. And in fact, I've been doing more wild stitching, but this one remembers that it actually is really effective to do some anyway. So I'm being refreshed. Okay, where does this leave me? I've got 2 pieces from then. I've got the book of Fleur. And then when Fleur came last year in March, a year ago, I made this to take to her workshop. And I do have to say, this is one of my favorite pieces of all time. There's something about this. I made it on green blanket that I bought from Zoe at Green Door. It's got a pocket in it, and it just is the right size for me. It still has work to be done, but it's enough that it's a story and that it goes to all my workshops, actually, as an example of how I approach collage and just the individual joy that as we work out our style, what we can do. So with that in mind, I want to make a collection to take to New Zealand. We fly on the, is it the 7th or the 8th of February? So I'm not giving myself very much time, and I sort of like that. So I want to do a big pouch, maybe even bigger than this, and I had thought about a zipper, and I want to revisit a horsewhip. And again, this is a favorite piece, but she has not been revisited in this style. I made this piece in September 24. So, you know, time is moving on. And again, you can see where I started. There's my mum's pouch, bless her. And, oh, there's something handy. And it's tied on. Okay, so if I need a thread of this video, I know where to go. I'm still doing the same sort of things, but the fabric defines the choices. There's a little Woolies wool thing. Okay, so that's the context and story, my influences that I'm absorbing, and I've done a preliminary. I like this horsewhip, I have to say, because it's got a big brand. I'm not a delicate big braid. I'm not a delicate person when it comes to tying. And when I had my bazaar, I ended up wrapping things with these because it is just something that feels more natural for me. Okay, so where are we going to start? I've got this sort of thing in mind. I've got Fleur, so I'm thinking these colours. So to take you from the beginning, we can never have enough pouches and bags or offcuts. So this is a scrap of blanket. I always start with blanket if you're new to this channel, but you can absolutely easily do this with wadding or with linen or with any fabric that you have. You might like to start with just a favorite fabric, and you can back it with those normal things that make fabric thicker that I don't use and can't even remember the name of, but there are many, many people who do that. I started with blanket. In fact, I struggled at Fleur's before I had blanket, and now I'm okay. So this was a cape that I have used, and now the upcycler in me needed to use part of this cape for something else. So now I have the leftover bits. So this is quite a long length, and now I have scraps. So this is a big bit of blanket. I want to show you now. This is what is really funny. Those of you who know me well know that previous to the last couple of years, I wore black all the time. That was my corporate lifestyle. I saw people in monotone and monochrome, and I love that, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I came across this pouch clutch of mine that was a favorite one, and I looked at it today and I thought, can I even show that? It's so black. But what I wanted to show you was the versatility. I say we, I'm hoping you and I are always fascinated by efficient and different ways that we can hold our bits and pieces. So I had been thinking of doing a large pouch with a zipper. I am not good at zippers to take to Wellington. I would have to go and buy a big zipper, and I still might do that. But I wanted to show you this because I don't know how to make it yet, but I was thinking that this could be something because it is very secure, and this bit is a big envelope inside. So can you imagine this whole piece becoming a big pouch like this? I think, so that's a raw edge, and this is folded over, and it has a magnetic clasp. So, you know, it's like a normal pouch with a folded over edge there, and then within it, it's got a big, big pocket. So what am I going to do? I'm going to experiment to see how wide this fabric is and how far it goes on. And immediately I can see that I probably haven't got enough to go straight up in the middle. So let's do a trifold to start. Do I want to do a trifold to start and then add something on? Let's just see the length first. So, and it's a shame that that's torn. That was me being too eager. But if we cut and get the maximum length along here, let's go by this blue stripe. And then I'll show you the other bits. I'm sort of getting straight into it because I think as I feel the bits, I'll get an idea of how much fabric and ideas I've got so far. So that is in between there and there is my longest bit of wool. So it could easily be a big trifold. Which is what we might start with, I think. So let us, what do I need to do, everyone? There's a big split here, but that will take away the length. That's where that I'm trying to be most efficient with my length of fabric, the one piece. So I've got that bit there. That's too skinny. So I want it wider. So it's almost like the blanket without a join is telling me how far we can go to start with. Leave that little tag there. And if I do a trifold, I don't tend to have this go down very far because it's about the space in there for a project or my things I want to carry. So let's see if we can get which I use the stripes. It just makes it easy. And you have a check blanket. So some people might be coming on now and going, wow, is Kate doing a bright blue piece? Yes, I am. But most of this will be covered over. I do like this blanket because it feels like it's New Zealand wool. It's very thick and furry and yummy. So let's say we've got that at the moment. What I could do is make a pocket on the back. Because it's all about ease of getting into things, isn't it? I've got these two quite round shapes. But we don't want to decorate this and then cover it up, so I've sort of got to think about that now. I think I might rather have pockets in the middle section like this, and then another one inside, which I've hardly got the width for, but I can make that work. Or we can use a different blanket, but I love that blanket. All right, I'll stop going on about the blanket. I can't help myself, isn't that beautiful? Make a tag. But 3 sides gives me lots of room to play. So let's say that's our pouch. What have I pulled so far to remind me of the thoughts I have around this colorway? Well, I have, see, that is going to be distracting. Let me pull the bits first so you don't think that clashes. I've got this beautiful silk that has been embroidered from India. I thought I was going for yellows and greens and pinks. I don't think I'll use that yellow, but this is, I think I've shown you it before. It's a ironing board cover, so you can go anywhere. I've got some sari in these colours. Gosh, I bought an odd lot over, didn't I, when I come to think of it. I've got this textural pink. I've got a little bit of this because both Fleur and I realised that we had a similar brocade. And then I've got this, which is another piece from the collection that Missy gave me for Christmas. And I'm thinking those green and pink birds could be hero pieces on here, and you know, could be embroidered, as well as these beautiful flowers. Some are bigger than the others, but they're not too big. So that could be hero. And then I came across a year or so ago, I've got one come out somewhere. I was trying to find graphics that looked a little bit like Magnolia Pearl, or a lot of people that use that upcycle. And I found this on Etsy. Can't remember who I got it from. I had to have it printed. In the end, I wasn't thrilled with the clarity of vision and the size of them. It's where I got my birds from as well. But, you know, a flower like that in the cream and being stitched over might be something that goes on here. And I do like that pinky colour, but they are giant, whereas these are smaller. So that's my thinking so far. I might actually make this a video where I stop and actually make something and then come back and keep going. So you don't have to watch me fuss around with all my decisions. So how about, for the first time I'm actually planning this, I'm going to turn you off and then come back. See you soon. Okay, I'm back. I hope you won't notice, but that wasn't too long. And I was going to go further, and then I thought, then you miss some of the process. So I suppose that's just me. I don't want you to miss out on anything, mainly because I like talking to you, and that helps me process. So let's take all of these things off, and I'll show you. I've made the decision. I'm just making a really big pouch, and I'm going to stick with my original plan of a zipper along there. And if I need to get my mum's help, she will be more than willing to do that. And then I can make it pink or whatever. So now that I went through that first process of talking it out loud, I know more so that I want to go in pinks and greens. And that happens to be sitting there. And my work always has a little piece of embroidery. And at least, you know, I'm trying to use less and less so that I have more to share, and also just to preserve what is now precious. So I'm just going to go through my tearing and playing stage with you. I love this fabric that you've seen before. I went over and found that I had one piece of this linen that I've used in many workshops and pieces, and I love it. Not so much because it's big flowers, but the linen is absolutely beautiful. It's vintage in nature, and it's got a lovely pink, and so it's lovely pink, but it breaks beautifully, and every piece is different. So if you're new to slow stitching, I'm collaging, and I'm making little bits and pieces that will eventually go together, and we'll embroider over some will stand alone, and we're really rearranging. So I've got 3 of those bits, one big bit of that so far. I was thinking as I went through my scraps of the beautiful Michelle McKillip, incredible quilter and slow stitcher and good at everything. Michelle's coming on the trip with us, and she gifted me this piece of beautiful old bark cloth, and I think that's very much in. I'm going a bit oblong here today. Sometimes I just use all of that, but also this hero piece of a vase and flowers, because you know I love still life. Well, I've always loved still lifes, but I haven't shown you that piece lately. got so much going on. So good to be back and into everything again. So are you back to all your usual things that you do in a year? Doesn't take long, does it? It's like even if we wanted to stay on holidays forever, it's like the world says, okay, you've done that. And people are talking about Valentine's Day and Easter already. I'm not going that far. I just went through my little box that I often take with me, and I've sort of gathered, I think these are from my mum and various little kits that I found at shows. Don't know what this is. It's new fabric, but it's got a little close pattern that can be good for filling in the bits. I've left them square for the moment. And then this one, which is a bit of a bright green. It's, you know, I do realise that sort of this aqua underneath is a little bit hard on the eye, but I want to show you it doesn't matter what you've got underneath. You can either choose to keep it or cover it. Another piece there and another piece there. So if we need some brightening, here's another little bit. A lot of people use stripes. I don't tend to have stripes, but I found this, and again, I don't know where I got it from. It's brand new. I can't remember buying it, but it might have been in a little kit with some others. So they can be handy little poke me under bits. The stripes. Let's just do a square and that. And then the feature is I was busy and I went away and harvested these birds from Missy's big bit of fabric. Now as I look at them, I could even do them separately, but I think I will keep them on the front as hero pieces and have the tail maybe wrap round the back. It still needs to be fussy cut. I've left that to show you. Then there were big flowers, and I immediately thought that these could be like the ones that Fleur works and do some beautiful edging, even some beading. I keep talking about beading, and Braun, you're coming too, so I'm going to commit to using your bead. Here it is, this little bead threader. I've got no excuse, and especially when it looks as gorgeous as that. There's another piece of that. I love this 50s bed jacket, and this has got interest for me because it's got a double top there and a seam, so that could add texture and light. And then I had bought this sari over, but I don't think now that that's the right colour sari, and I'm going to leave the brocade for the moment. So, hoping that made sense for you. We are now ready to do some placing. And remember, I might do this now just I won't. It might make you sad. I've actually got this sari, which in the end might, actually that one will go better on here. So I've ended up going brighter than I thought. But if I reference myself back to that was even brighter, that was less bright. And then I've got those rosy sorts of things. Okay, I feel better now. All right, let's take all of this off. And see where we can start. So I'm a top right hand corner person, whatever that means. You might like to lay the whole thing down. Oh, it's beautiful and thick. This blanket, it's yummy. Someone might be able to tell me what's the weather like in Wellington in early February most years. Because if it's typical, it probably won't happen to us. Now, I like using both sides of this. Now, you'll be thinking, that doesn't go, Kate. I could cut them out. I might do that. If I put that there, then I've got a flower at the big top. And I'm pinning as I go, but where did I have that? Okay, so I want to... They're very big flowers, very beautiful. And they're looking very light on this background so far. Let's just keep playing. See, this joins with that. And sometimes you think, oh, I'm going to cover this up. But I think that's part of, it has to be part of the process. Because you don't know in the end what will stand out and what will be covered. See, because I'm me, I'm already starting to think about things like that. Bringing this down, and over there. Don't like using thirds, and is that too light? So if we started with something squishy, then add the flowers. And then maybe bring this further down. And we'll audition our birds. Birdies. I've got all these little bits. Not on the floor, that's the first place. That's that other rose that could end up going without those bright green leaves. They're not in keeping. I mean, I'm sure you saw me chop off the birds. Here. Oh, yes. Okay, we'll take that out for the moment. Like this to be a little bit less halves and a bit more thirds. So for the moment, let's go like that. Thinking these birds are going to be looking up at something and folding under. What other little fabrics? And we've got our vase. bit of pinks. Okay. Now, everyone who does collage probably has a different favourite method, and as always, I say there are many people that you can go to. Mine is probably a little bit more art making these days, or scrap making, or who knows what it is. It doesn't have to even have a name. How about that? With flowers over the top. Maybe these flowers under here on top of something. We don't want their tails to be over a flower. So again, that's a bit like, but we want them to be in the garden. Still don't know about that bit, and we can still see too much of this aqua blanket underneath, but we're getting somewhere. What about another? Oh, I haven't used the green silk. It's a lot darker than I thought. Like that. I think, were they a bit like that when I started? Can't remember. Makes sense if they're looking at the flower. Okay, what else can I do? I want to take a bit of apologies. That which won't be mentioned again, which is a wonderful sign of there being flowers and pollen in the air, which we need. I'm sure I've told you before that my father-in-law, when I used to do patchwork a lot more, and my mum patchworks, he says, why do you buy a piece of fabric and then cut it out and put it back together again? And I think that's what some of us just love doing, like using a beautiful fabric and then just making it our own. And sometimes we don't have to have all the flowers out. See, and the birds are moving further and further across, which is wonderful. And maybe, oh, this is a balustrade. A little bit of pop down in this corner. It starts to put them in a place and a time, maybe. And a story and an adventure. Okay, what else can we play with now? I've got more of this. Oh, I've got funny now, that looks so bright compared, like this looks not as bright compared to my other work, and in another work that looks so at home. So if I wanted to heat it up, I could. This fabric without the leaves is beautiful. Again, this is silk. And they could be in a garden that has all sorts of flowers in it. Because flowers are all sorts. Now, if this was you, you'd probably be going, Kate, I can't stand that bit, and I wouldn't do that. And in a way, I want you to do that so that you go and try it yourself. We could join those two there. Maybe not yet. Maybe we have to have more colour in this corner. I don't know yet. And I will come and share this progress with you. But again, it probably will look nothing like what you're seeing now. So an interesting thing with that green, it's very bright, but in a way it's adding a little bit of life to the garden, and because it's got backing on it, it's a little bit more 3D and coming out. I will cut, in fact, before I go, let's cut some of this blue a little closer. And of course, all these things will go in my hope tote when I'm traveling. Actually, the hope tote probably won't be ready. Oh, actually, there's nothing wrong with it. It'll have one side and 1 week. That's where we'll be up to on the hope tote by the time we fly. So it's mainly Australians going over. So we're very excited about that. A few local Kiwis as well, who I'm looking forward to meeting. Hello, Michelle and Maureen. As I said, this one sold out really quickly through Zoe at the Green Door Studios. And it's the first, so hopefully it's a travelling roadshow that just gets more and more movable as we go on. A little bit of vintage shopping as well. Now there we go. I can take that off and you might feel calmer, so I think I will. I've got this vase. Which is not the right place for a vase, but I feel I will alter this a little bit. So for the moment, forgive me for covering up the vase. I just want to give you a little pop of colour there. And there we are. It's the beginning of the Wellington collection by Kate in the Nest. You've seen my Chennai, and I think I had a Jaipur, didn't I? Had Kansas and all of those. So as I said, I'm very privileged, very, very lucky to be traveling at this point in my life. And so I'm sharing it with you. So until next time, I hope there was something there that you enjoyed or made you smile. And I'll be back again soon. And remember, there's going to be a horsewith at least, and who knows what else there always had to be 3 pieces. So we'll have a think about that. So, but for now, I'm going to stitch for the rest of the night. Please take care, and I'll see you again. Thank you.